Today, I stand on the firmest negation of the resolution that the U.S. should prohibit the extraction of fossil fuels from federal lands and waters. I stand on this side today for three reasons: the economy, how useful the ban would actually be if it was enforced, and the actual enforcement of the law anyway. So, my first contention is that this act would negatively impact the economy, and it would also cause large imbalances with the demand, supply, and price on both the fossil fuel industry and the renewable industry. The fossil fuel industries would just shut down, and many people would experience blackouts and be deprived of some basic living needs. The renewable energies, on the other hand, the prices would soar, and it would create a monopoly, and it would just tip the economy so much that the U.S. would fall out of power. And not only would this industry, which is the fossil fuel industry, be shut down, almost every single other company would quickly fall out. Cars, deliveries, or just about anything else but the renewables would immediately die off. Again, this would create a monopoly, which is really bad for the economy, and the USA would fall out of power. And the job loss and energy demand, and it would cause unrest, and then people would start fighting, and then the government would fall apart. Without basic living needs, people would become violent and disordered. The USA would become vulnerable, and it would also weaken the economy of other countries, because as trade, imports, and exports, it's a large part of the economy. And people in the USA, they would have to shift all the way back to ancient times, and they would have to move to rural areas and literally grow their own food to survive. Then, this means that humans will no longer have a proper civilization anymore, and it'll kickstart the Greater Depression. Now, we're not saying we're banning fossil fuels, but the effect of taking this part away is still very significant because the USA produces a lot of fossil fuel energy. Okay, my second contention is about how reliable banning fossil fuels would actually be and how useful it would actually be. Fossil fuels are only a fraction of all the pollution that is around here. And also, even if we ban fossil fuels from this part, then they'll just go into other territories and drill more and more, and if one side is going down, then the other side would obviously skyrocket. So, in a project by the TPPF called MAGICC, if the USA banned all their fossil fuels, then the difference in 2100 would be negligible, or almost the same as before. So, banning fossil fuel companies from this area would do literally nothing, and it would just cause public unrest, and they'd argue a lot, and it wastes time, effort, money. It's just a huge waste to try it at all. If nothing's gonna happen, it's completely negligible from proven studies, then why do it anyway? Why do something that is a complete waste? We're wasting so much stuff by trying to enforce this, by trying to do something that's not even useful, and it will never work. My third contention is that it's actually impossible to enforce it anyway, even if it would work. It'll only drain out America's money, and by the way, the nation is in debt by about $33 trillion. There's no way we can possibly afford to do this at all, and prohibition just doesn't work. It creates all sorts of things illegal people trying to do stuff because they're angry about it. It'll create a black market or something, and all that stuff will just happen, and police will have to work extra hard, which means draining money, draining time, draining effort, and And then expectations will become really high. People will become really stressed. They'll always look behind their backs. And meanwhile, the fossil fuel companies are still very angry, but they're still getting away with this stuff. So there's no way that it'll ever work. So again, my three contentions are how it is impossible for it to actually have an effect, it's impossible to enforce, and that it would harm the economy terribly. For these three reasons, I still stand on the firmest negation of the resolution that the U.S. should prohibit the extraction of fossil fuels from federal lands and waters.